Good morning, everyone. Tonight, all of us will be tuning in to watch the one and only election presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And there will be many topics that will be discussed, all important, like the economy, immigration, the environment, abortion. But the one topic that the entire Jewish community should be focused on tonight is the questions that pertain to anti-Semitism here in America and the war that Israel is waging in Gaza. That is the most critical subject that we should look for to see what the candidates say and who has the more compelling position and argument and strategy to defeat anti-Semitism here and to defeat Hamas and all of the Islamic fundamentalists in the Middle East. This week's Torah portion has the commandment to remember what Amalek did to the Jewish people. Amalek was the first nation to attack the Jewish people after they left Egypt. And the Torah tells us you should wipe out, you should utterly destroy the descendants of Amalek in every generation that rise up to attack the Jewish people. And as the Torah says, they attacked us in an unprovoked war, just like Hamas did on October 7th. And the Torah says they attacked you when you were weak and weary. You had left Egypt and you were tired, you were faint, you were exhausted, and they took advantage of your vulnerability. And therefore this evil must be eliminated from the world, because it is a cancer that can destroy not just, God forbid, the Jewish people, but all of humanity. And this is the mitzvah that has fallen on our generation. We are in a war against a modern day Amalek. And the Torah tells us that there is only one way to deal with Amalek, and that is to eliminate it. Just like we eliminated Al-Qaeda, and just like we eliminated ISIS, Hamas, Iran, Hezbollah, they all have to be destroyed like Amalek. And the Torah tells us 3,300 years ago that this war will go on in every generation. And therefore this is the most crucial position that should pertain and matter to all of us as Jews, because this is the war of our lifetime, and we cannot, as a Jewish people, rest until Amalek is destroyed in our modern day. But when the Torah talks about Amalek attacking the Jewish people, the Torah says, you were ayef v'yageya. Now, there are many different interpretations. You'll see some translations say you were tired, you were weary, you were exhausted, you were faint. But basically both words mean the same thing. It's as though the Torah says, you left Egypt and Amalek attacked you in an unprovoked war, and you were tired and you were tired. Why the same word twice? And the commentaries explain there's a difference. You see, we all know what it feels like to be tired. At the end of a long day, you're tired. But sometimes you're tired, but you could look at the day and say, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, but I've accomplished a great deal. And therefore, there's a tiredness that comes with a satisfaction of achievement and accomplishment, knowing that you've done something important that day. On the other hand, there's a weariness and a tiredness that's a fatigue that comes from also an inner exhaustion, a feeling of unfulfillment, of unachievement. And therefore the Torah says both words. Ayef just means tired. Yageya in verses throughout the Torah always means to achieve. As the verse says, Yagia kapecha, when you toil with the work of your hands and you eat from your hard work, ashrecha, you're fortunate. And yes, we are going through one of the greatest challenges that the Jewish people and humanity has ever faced. And yes, it's exhausting because it's been almost a year now. But we should feel a sense of achievement, that we are ridding the world of this evil once and for all, and giving all future generations in Israel and around the world. If we fight this fight and win it, it will be a gift to our descendants, to our children, our grandchildren here in Israel, and for all of humanity. And that is an invigorating type of exhaustion and tiredness. I just came back from Israel, last week. And yes, the people of Israel have been fighting since October 7th. And there's been so much pain and sacrifice and loss and tragedy and grieving and mourning. But you feel every step of the way in Israel that alongside the sadness and the tears and the grieving and the brokenheartedness, in the same heart of every Jew is a joy and a pride to know I am a Jew and I am standing up to the challenge of our generation and I am ridding the world of this evil. And there's a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in knowing how important our fight is. And tonight when we tune into the debate, we are all part of that fight. Just because we live here doesn't mean we're not a part of it. We support Israel. We have gone on missions. We've sent aid to them. And yes, who we elect, who we vote for, will make a big difference in who will win this fight, whether it will be good or evil. When I was in Israel, we received the Torah cover that we will dance with on Simchas Torah. And at the ceremony, Rabbi Doron Perez spoke. Rabbi Doron Perez has two sons, Daniel and Jonathan, amongst his children. And on October 7th, Daniel, his son, was taken hostage. And 2 weeks later was the wedding of his son, Jonathan. And he described how they decided to go ahead with the wedding, to not give the terrorists a victory by postponing the wedding. And he said they got dressed to go to the wedding hall. And then his wife said, I can't go, I have to do something. And he followed his wife into Daniel's bedroom. And she took out his suit that he was going to wear at the wedding, sat down on his bed, put her head into his suit, and started to weep as she smelled his garments. And he comforted his wife, and only 10 or 15 minutes later, she said, now I'm ready to go to the wedding. And he said when he came to the wedding, he thought to himself, I'm going to block out any thoughts about Daniel being a hostage in captivity because I won't be able to focus on the wedding of my son Jonathan. But when the rabbi began the ceremony, he said, let us begin by remembering Daniel, who is now being held hostage in Gaza. And everyone under the chuppah began to weep and cry. And he said it was the most tearful, saddest chuppah as everyone celebrated with Jonathan while crying for Daniel. But he said after the chuppah we wiped away our tears and we danced and we rejoiced with Jonathan. And he said it was the saddest, happiest wedding. And he said this is what King Solomon says, there's a time for everything under the sun. There's a time to mourn and there's a time to dance. Eis sepod ve'eit lirkod. He said I always thought it's two separate times, but I realized at my son's wedding that the time for mourning and the time of dancing could actually come together. We are able to fulfill this mitzvah in our generation of wiping out Amalek. With all the sadness and with all the tears, we were given this awesome responsibility. And every Jew, including every American Jew, has to do their part. Let's listen to what the candidates say, and let us make a decision, not just on what's good for the economy and for the environment and for immigration, all of which is important, but nothing is as important and as critical of the war of good and evil that we have been faced with in our generation this year. Let us rise to the occasion and fulfill the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek. And yes, it's tiring, but internally we are not exhausted. We are invigorated to know that we are succeeding, and with Hashem's help, we will finish the job. Have a wonderful day.